Compass Mining is your trusted partner in Bitcoin mining. Whether you're investing in one machine or thousands, our customizable solutions are tailored to meet your needs. We are your experts in Bitcoin mining, offering a platform where individuals and businesses can purchase hardware, host machines, and access a range of ancillary Bitcoin mining services. We also specialize in large-scale site development and data center operations. Discover more at compassmining.io and see how we can power your success today. Hey miners, welcome back to the channel. McNallie Money, the official home of power mining analysis. Another rough day in the market for the Bitcoin mining stocks. Bitcoin hovering in the $103,000 range. However, many of the miners continue to give up ground after yesterday's massive pullback in response to the DeepSeek news over the weekend. We're going to be covering that in today's video, plus the major announcement between Hive and Bitfarms today. So much to talk about. Before we get into it though, take a second, smash the like button. Big help to myself and the channel. Anthony loves it. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comment section below if you're currently holding shares of either Hive or Bitfarms, what you thought about today's M&A announcement, and your outlook for 2025 for the Bitcoin mining sector. With that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay, guys, so that's right. Tuesday morning, another struggle in the market for the Bitcoin miners, Anthony. We're going to come on to that in a second. You were actually able to get an article out just today on the DeepSeek news as well, and we got a big announcement from Hive and Bitfarms that we wanted to talk through towards the end of the podcast. So as we like to say, no shortage of news in the Bitcoin mining sector. However, the miners continue to find their footing here today.
Yeah, and obviously yesterday's markets probably gave me the energization to write this article today, because it was obviously it was a big come down for a lot of stocks yesterday, and this news about DeepSeek entering the AI landscape certainly impacted the likes of Wall Street. I mean, we saw one of the most valuable companies in the world, Nvidia, their stock dropped by, I'm going to say, close to $600 billion in market capitalization just in one trading session yesterday. That's a staggering 17% of the company. And they weren't the only ones. Alphabet, which is Google, and Microsoft also had drops of 99 billion and 71 billion respectively. And if you think about disruption, to tech firms, all you have to do is look at the Bitcoin mining sector, which we cover, on a very regular basis. You saw the likes of TeraWulf, Core Scientific, Hut 8, Experience in declines, Cypher's in that group as well. Declines of 23 to 30% just yesterday, just in that one trading session. So the estimated total result is a 2 trillion market loss in market capitalization across the global tech sector. Now, what were the big issues regarding the news story? Well, DeepSeek, and this is them saying this, they've allegedly only spent approximately $6 million developing their reasoning model, which is called DeepSeek R1, and that's effectively a fraction of the cost. If you compare, OpenAI, ChatGPT, they've cost, I think, reportedly over $600 million to develop those, that language model. And if you then look at the charges that these companies are now seeking for using these language models, you're talking $100 per million tokens processed for OpenAI, whereas DeepSeek, for the same level of processing power, you're looking at $4. So that's a 96% reduction in cost. And that's probably got the market yesterday jumping through hoops, because obviously a lot of the valuations of these companies is based on the fact that, the development of these, therefore they can charge a premium once they're fully developed and accessible. And if if you've got new players entering the market that are able to do this significantly, and I do say at the moment it's alleged, nothing's as transparent as we all see. We've had, similar updates before from companies that say they can do this, that, and the other, and a few months later it's found out that they were actually not. But I think this one's got a little bit more legs. DeepSeek, you can access it. I was able to sort of like access this morning some of their the website and able to look at the accounts, and so it's very easy to get set up an account there, just in the same way it is if you go to something like ChatGPT or another model. um, but you mentioned DeepSeek. This is a Chinese company, and you think about North America, you just have to look at the recent angst with the likes of TikTok. And DeepSeek has also got connections with Chinese government, and so there's going to be a few hurdles to get through for this even to become viable in the US. But the market yesterday saw this news come out, saw the repercussions of what potentially could happen, and literally we've had the best part of a day and a half now of seeing the market drop significantly. One last thing to say on it is obviously Donald Trump. We talked about this yesterday. He's come out. They're wanting to invest 500 billion in a Starlink project. He's turned around and said, "Look, this is a wake-up call for America. If China are doing this, this is a wake-up call. So guys, get on with it. Get on developing. Come up with a better product out there, and let's drive this forward." So, it's effectively like a bit of a warning, to the tech industry in the US.
Yeah, it certainly is. I actually took a look through the article today, Anthony. Very timely. I've got a list or a raft of comments here. So first and foremost, yeah, couldn't it be better timing with President Trump coming in announcing that Stargate initiative? This is just more fuel to the fire, in my opinion. Yesterday was my biggest on paper loss ever trading. And for whatever reason, Anthony, I felt very, very calm about it. This to me feels like some sort of FUD. You mentioned TikTok. The timing to me is just very uncanny. We were supposed to see TikTok banned in the United States. Now, just a few days later, over the weekend, all of a sudden this DeepSeek model comes out. We've also seen a ton of rumors that they actually have more GPUs, up to 50,000 more NVIDIA units than maybe they're reporting or telling. And on top of that, the power consumption you talk about, Anthony. So I just wanted to relate that back to the miners, you guys. If you have companies like, say, Bit Digital, for example, that have their own GPUs, obviously this type of a model with these type of power inputs and costs would be a direct competition to what they're able to charge. In the situation of Core Scientific, as you pointed out to me, Anthony, this could put the potential revenue of CoreWeave at jeopardy, which therefore could have impacts down the line on Core Scientific. So we can see how both models are impacted. And ironically enough, even companies like CleanSpark, who have expressed no interest in HPC AI, actually got beaten up yesterday, just pulled down by this negative news, as did many of the big blue chip tech stocks. So the final point there, Anthony, you brought up the total impact to companies like NVIDIA. They're obviously trying to regain some ground today, but with those market caps, I heard a statistic that just yesterday alone, NVIDIA lost the equivalent market cap to 10 times MicroStrategy. So huge impacts. And another thing we started to see a lot yesterday was this reference to Jevons Paradox. So we wanted to bring that up as well. This one's interesting, Anthony. Essentially, the paradox here is, as you start to see these huge incremental gains in efficiency and cost, you would expect the overall consumption to decrease. However, in a lot of times, it actually leads to more consumption. So a great analogy is the automobile industry. As they became more and more efficient, the internal combustion engine or the ICE engine, you would think that perhaps that could curtail gas usage, but that just led to the eventual rollout of cars across the world, and obviously the overwhelming use of fossil fuels and gas. So a very interesting paradox there. I don't know if you have any comments on that one, Anthony, before we get into some of the buying.
Yeah, I do actually, because William Stanley Jevons was an Englishman.
Oh,
And this came out in about, in the 17th century, 1865. When not cars weren't on the road then, but steam engines were certainly on the road. And the fact that steam engines were powered by coal, he was using, as it's called now, the Jevons Paradox to actually observe the consumption of coal. And it soared after James Watt, who introduced the Watt steam engine. So, that engine was introduced. It improved efficiency of the coal by steam engine, and therefore it created an increased use of the steam engine in a wide range of industries, and we can see how that's gathered momentum since that period in time there. So it was interesting yesterday. I think we had obviously the podcast with Patrick Fleury, who's the CFO of TeraWulf. He mentioned the Jevons Paradox. Mike Alfred mentioned it on one of his tweets, and numerous other commentators out there were also mentioning it. So word was getting around. If I heard Jevons and Sputnik mentioned more than a dozen times yesterday, it was all on the same day. So it
now
was
here's a
interesting.
question for you, Anthony. Do you think Jevon ever considered he would be on a Bitcoin podcast on YouTube 300 years after his death? I don't think so. Hey, and you brought up Mike Alfred. Why don't you share the news with that one as well?
Yeah, no, good news. We've got Mike coming on the Power Mining Analysis podcast on Friday, so really looking forward to that. Mike's been in the space, a lot longer than I have. He's a non-exec director of IREN. He covers the mining space in terms of his knowledge. He also has conversations with a lot of the CEOs, just like we do. Um, and he's also a big investor as well. So he's got holdings in some of the biggest mining stocks. And he's not been quiet about, those particular stocks that he has liked. I mean, he does, regularly give updates as to what he's been buying, and also very much a Bitcoin maximus as well. The other good thing is we get to know what he's having for tea most nights because he posts the pictures of his steaks and Aquapana water. So, we're always getting those updates there. I've yet to put one of my updates on what I'm eating, so I'll consider that in the future. But really looking forward. I think it'd be a good conversation. Mike's always great. His knowledge in the space is there's not many got that level of knowledge and detail. He's got a very varied background in investments, and I think one part of his background, he worked for NIDIG as well. So especially in the mining space. Remember, NIDIG were one of the investment companies that came out and had $1 billion to invest in Bitcoin mining, which didn't actually go as well as they expected. They did lend out to a number of the miners, and quite a few of them ended up defaulting on some of those loans because 2022 was that challenging period. The Bitcoin price dropped all the way down to 15,000. Miners had loans which they took out buying machines. The price of the machines dropped, the valuations dropped, the valuation of the assets supporting the machines dropped. So it was like a lose-lose situation really for everyone. I think they've sort of recovered from that, and they are doing similar investments now. I think looking in sort of like maybe in the HPC space. But yeah, Mike was involved with them, a few years ago. I think Tyler Page may have mentioned because I think he was also a previous employee of NIDIG as well. So looking forward to Friday. It'll be a good conversation, and nice to end the week on.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm looking forward to that one as well. We're going to keep it light and have some fun with Mike and maybe ask about those steak dinners, what his favorite cut of steak is. Hey, now another great interview we did was actually on the Compass Mining channel. So our friend Jarrett at Compass had us on. We started talking about predictions in terms of global difficulty and global hash rate. And it got us thinking, Anthony, about these nation state players. So we brought up the fact that we may start to see China, Russia, some of these other countries get involved in mining to kind of front run or combat the strategic Bitcoin reserve. This one came out from Vivek last night saying state-owned power company Rossetti to start Bitcoin mining using excess energy in Russia. So this was very timely. I thought this was interesting. We're starting to see nation states get involved in a big way.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about it on the podcast for a while now, and now we're seeing actual results is coming through. I don't think this will be the first or the last. So we expect to see more and more of this. You've got to just remember about power and load and what Bitcoin mining can do for that load. It can take up where there's capacity. It's a great leveler. Switching on and off. No, I don't think there's any other industry that can switch off power within less than a minute and then restart within less than a minute. You look at an aluminium facility, the power would have to be switched off a month in advance to cool that down. When you've got these big smelters there, that doesn't need to happen in Bitcoin mining. They've got switches there; they can do it immediately. We're talking seconds to power up massive sites, and that's the benefit. When the demand's required, they switch off, and we've seen that in this last month or so with the weather conditions in the US. Patrick talked about it yesterday. He says a lot of miners, and the January updates will start appearing next week. We'll get Bitfarms out on Monday, and we'll start seeing their production levels compared to maybe what they were doing in October, November, and December. But we started to see some reduction in December because, again, it's the weather conditions and the colder climates and the requirement for the domestic requirement goes up. So, there's a lot of curtailments at the moment, and this is where Bitcoin mining is a great industry. Another good example is in the UAE where Bitcoin mining takes place, and probably you need a massive amount of air conditioning to keep the UAE cool for the majority of the year, not just like summer months, but it's even in the winter, it's probably like a good summer day compared to the UK. Now, in the summer months when it's 50 degrees centigrade, the air conditioning requirements, take that power requirement significantly up there to 4 gigawatts of power for the UAE. And in the evenings, when things get a bit cooler, that drastically drops there. Well, they're now using Bitcoin mining to alleviate that problem. It keeps the load stable. The miners can mine in the evenings or in the cooler hours and then switch off when the requirements needed. So I think there'll be this sort of industry appeals to every country, no matter where you're located. Ask me a year or 2 years ago, I'd only said in certain areas, but the UAE proves that Bitcoin mining is literally a global business.
Yeah, it certainly is. And there's also a ton of benefits going on in Africa. I know we learned about that in Nashville. I've heard the term power sink being used. So, a great way, like you say, Anthony, on demand, real time to either dump load or pick up excess power as needed. A great part of the community there. Now, I want to come on to Bitfarms in a second here. Obviously, some big news with Hive. We've got an interview coming up with Ben Gagnon next week, so very timely there. But before we do, two other news clips here, Anthony. Some big buying once again out of Metaplanet in Japan, $745 million worth of Bitcoin, and good old Michael Saylor gobbling up another 1.1 billion. So this has almost become the new norm now, this weekly MicroStrategy buying. But again, despite the concerns about DeepSeek and some of these AI HPC implications, the whales continue to buy, they're not phased, and Bitcoin pushes forward. Compass Mining makes Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone. Start mining in as little as 48 hours with our turnkey hardware, online and mining directly to your Bitcoin wallet within 2 business days. Find out more at compassmining.io and get started now.
Yeah, I to be honest with you, there's no impact to Bitcoin from what DeepSeek have announced yesterday. In fact, the opposite. I think it's a benefit because we've talked about the last month or so now this cyclical money moving from asset class to asset class. And believe you me, a lot of that money would have been put into HPC. And if people are feeling that's maybe not the place to want to invest at the moment, it might be that they come back into Bitcoin mining. And certainly we saw yesterday, even though all the stocks were down, some of the pure play miners weren't down anywhere near as much. So the likes of CleanSpark, the likes of Marathon Digital, Riot wasn't beaten up as much as the other miners, even though it has said it's interested now moving to HPC. Hasn't formally done anything yet, so it's not got a contract or anything, and it's still got a 600 megawatt capacity to fill at the Corsicana site. Jason could easily fill that with mining. If the HPC becomes an issue, and we're not even saying that at the moment. This is day two of an announcement that happened over the weekend. So the buying from MicroStrategy, I mean, again, that Michael Saylor doesn't care what the price is; he'll just keep buying at the top because he knows that Bitcoin's going to rally further. And I saw him on a recent interview. He's talking about the Bitcoin price should blast through, get through to 180,000, then it might drop to 140, and people will be asking all these questions: why? But we're in Bitcoin. It is a volatile asset, but the long-term direction this asset class is moving is literally in a sort of a 45-degree angle upwards. He's not afraid. I mean, that's another 10,000 coins. That's 471,000 Bitcoin. That's well over, 2%, getting on for 2.5% of every Bitcoin that's ever going to be produced. And if you consider, how much of a percentage of Bitcoin is lost, then you're then talking, maybe 3 or 4% of the Bitcoin available that MicroStrategy actually hold. If you're thinking anywhere between 10-15% of Bitcoin has been lost, and we've seen lots of examples of that. People have lost the keys, people have lost the drives, and people may well have passed away and no one can access it. It's he's got a significant amount, as have the ETFs, and I think even yesterday, I think the BlackRock ETF still had a positive inflow for Bitcoin yesterday. Some of the other ETFs had an outflow, but BlackRock itself had an inflow. So they're growing just as quick, if not quicker, than MicroStrategy. And considering they've only been growing for 1 year and hold, slightly more than MicroStrategy, who've been doing this for about 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah, very interesting to see that positioning. And we still are waiting news or the next steps on the strategic Bitcoin reserve, which could be another major demand source for Bitcoin buying. Now, the next article here we want to talk about, Anthony, an interesting one. So Hive Digital has come out. They've said they're acquiring a 200 megawatt facility off Bitfarms. This is their Paraguay facility, the Iguazu site that we've heard Ben Gagnon talk about a lot on the channel. Also worth noting that last time we had Aiden and Frank on the channel for a podcast, they were actually down in Paraguay looking at potential sites. So obviously now with this news coming out, likely that they were looking at the Bitfarm facility when we spoke with them, Anthony. But this is a big article, a big acquisition in the space, essentially catapulting Hive into the realm of that mid-tier 25 exahash mining potential. So we wanted to talk through this one from both sides. We've got press releases from both Hive and Bitfarms and see how this is mutually beneficial for both of these companies.
Yeah, I mean, got to remember is Hive currently operates in Canada, in Iceland, in Sweden, so they're no stranger to working. They're operating in different jurisdictions, even in different countries, different languages, different accounting rules. They set up they've got their own 100 megawatt facility being built as we speak, in the same area as this one here. So this, although it came out as a surprise from left field, if you start thinking about logistically having those facilities next to each other, it sort of makes sense. Hive have been down there, a while now. They've got some really good relationships with the local administration down there, and we had Aidan and Frank on the podcast literally last week. So maybe the timing, we could have waited till this news come out here, but it's a good update from their perspective. People have questioned Hive on their growth strategy. Well, here's that resolved straight away now. I mean, they're looking to, literally grow from 6 exahash, which is where they are at the moment, to 25 exahash by the end of September 2025. So in the next 9 months, adding 19 exahash. That certainly puts them in the same sort of bracket as the likes of CleanSpark and IREN are doing over the same period. So this is a good update. I mean, Hive don't have a massive amount of power at the moment, but they're now growing this now. So in terms of their operational power at the moment, I think they use about 128 megawatts. They've got 300 in Paraguay now, so they're going to have their biggest presence in Paraguay, and that takes their total with bringing their existing facilities in Canada and Sweden to 430 again by the end of Q3 2025. Obviously, both of these sites are being developed, so they're not buying a brand new site; they're buying a site that Bitfarms were developing. Obviously, it's a lot of capital to develop this site. So the Iguazu site that they just purchased, this is in 2 phases. Phase 1 expected to be completed by the end of the first quarter. Construction is already 80% complete. This is going to add 6 exahash of capacity. That should be online, fully hashing by Q2 2025. And Hive will be making payments post energization to Bitfarms for a period of about 6 months. So part of the payments that they're going to make are post the actual completion of this facility over the next 6 months. Phase 2, which will be completed by the end of August 2025, that'll add a further 6.5 exahash of hydro-cooled ASICs. And, that then will mean that they've basically purchased a 200 megawatt site for approximately about 400,000 per megawatt upon completion, which is a very competitive price they paid. Now they've also got their own 100 megawatt facility being built as we speak. That's due for energization in 2025. That will give them 6.5 exahash. We already knew that. So that 6.5 takes their, and what they've currently got some extra miners coming in, and they're 6 exahash at the moment, that takes them to 13 exahash. And then those other 2 phases, phase 1, phase 2, takes them up to 25 exahash. So an ambitious target, but looks like achievable. They have got orders in for 15 exahash of miners from Bitmain. So this is the S21 plus Hydro ASICs, which they announced back in December. They've also released updates about their Canaan, Avalon A series miners back in November. And so they've been getting those machines in as well and using them very, very much efficiently. They've actually got a better ROI than the S21s have. And so from Hive's perspective, from Hive shareholders' perspective, this is a great update. We don't hear too much about any of the issues political down there. I mean, you are dealing in South America. Things can change very quickly down there. But I think this is more of a case of releasing some of the capital outlay for Bitfarms and giving Hive the opportunity to literally buy a business which is in an area that they're actually already going to be having significant business opportunities in that with their current site. So they're going to have 300 megawatts literally back to back. I remember when they went down there to the visits, 6 months ago, we could see the Bitfarms site very close to where the Hive site was going to be operating from. So this is like a great opportunity for them. So that gives us, the Hive perspective, and I'll leave it to you to start us on the Bitfarms perspective.
Yeah, now I wanted to bring up a few items with Bitfarms as well because we've been talking to Ben about this Paraguay expansion for quite some time. Since they started this development, though, Anthony, we've obviously seen the Stronghold acquisition, and then we saw those press releases prior to Christmas where they were rerouting a lot of their miners from the Paraguay facility to the US based Stronghold facilities. Now we've had the inauguration of Donald Trump. He's come out saying that they want crypto made in America. We're starting to even see some tax credits or breaks on crypto projects that have US origins. So interesting to see how this really works in a positive light for Bitfarms as well.
Yeah, so Bitfarms have got a lot going on. I mean, they've got the purchase of Stronghold Mining that will happen in the next 2 or 3 months. They've also announced all their North American growth strategies, which will hopefully take them close to 1 gigawatts of power. Now, bear in mind, all these things require payment. And so what it looks like is, it looks like maybe Bitfarms, were growing in a way that maybe shareholders wanted to, but you've also got to be able to pay for this. You've got to be able to raise funding. And so maybe they've looked at it and evaluated it, obviously, to think how they best to utilize their capital. And with those sites in Pennsylvania, the Stronghold sites, they've got potential to grow there. Why not use the capital that they've put into Paraguay to help get a better return by using that in some of their North American sites? It reduces their exposure to international sites down to 20% of the. So they've still got a significant presence in South America. We know that because they're mining Bitcoin already there in Paraguay and in Argentina. So this site that they're handing over is actually was actually a growth site for them. It's not completed yet, so it's not energized or anything like that. So effectively, they've got an LOI with Hive, and as soon as the closing of the transaction occurs, Hive will pay $25 million straight away. The next 6 months following the closing of the transaction, they'll pay a total of 31 million in equal payments over that next 6 months. And then because they've made 19 million payments to, I'm going to say Ande, who are the for the power. These are the deposits that they make. Then Hive will pay that 19 million back to Bitfarms, and then there's approximately 10 million remaining capital obligations which they'll receive for that as well. So a total of 85 million. That gives more cash flow to Bitfarms to make sure that they utilize that in the best way that they see fit as a company. The other thing they wanted to make quite clear is actually by doing this, it will, they are expecting their average power cost to reduce by about 10%. So it looks like the Paraguay energy prices were a bit higher than some of their North American facilities. So again, we've talked about cost of power, cost of machines, delivering the right margin at the right levels. Bitfarms, generally do have decent margins compared to peer miners, but obviously, Ben's looking to achieve even better results, and we'll get his view in a more detailed way. We're just reading from updates at the moment, so we're just seeing what everybody else is seeing and trying to put some context to it. But I think they can utilize that funding in North America, maybe better. They are looking to move into HPC AI, and hopefully if these announcements are resolved in the short term, that's still a strategy for them. But equally, like a lot of other miners, they have the opportunity to go Bitcoin mining in all their facilities because Ben's probably one of the OGs in the Bitcoin mining space. Nobody's been in this space as long as he has, predominantly, a long time. So he'll know, the company will have done the due diligence to work out the best way forward, and hopefully Ben can put some more color on this when we have a chat with him next week.
Yeah, he certainly can. So Mike, Alfred Friday, Ben the following week. The final piece we wanted to mention here, Anthony, put some context to this one, is Miner Madness. You and I have managed to come up the ranks now in first and second position, or at least at the time this screenshot was taken. Now, I don't want to brag too much, Anthony. We're not doing very well percentage return wise, but it is nice to see some downside protection in our Miner Madness 2.0 picks.
Absolutely. I looked actually, there was an update, I think it was the 20th of January, so 8 days ago I was probably, closer to the bottom of the table. I think I was close to like position 300. And I just kept saying it's early days, and this time there's been a lot more volatility. Every day a different news story comes out and different price action on some of these mining stocks. So just when people thought we've picked the right ones, and it's like, we've had some big companies lose a bit of ground. IREN lost a bit of ground when they announced the $1 billion ATM, and then it recovered in like literally a couple of days and was doing really, really well. And then all of a sudden, yesterday's news brought that share price tumbling, close to, getting up towards 30%, as it did with a number of other miners. I must admit, when I made my selections, and bear in mind, this is not about how I feel the rest of the year is going to go. This was about picking miners till the end of March. That's where the competition finishes. It doesn't matter if the share price drops 60% in April, May, and June. I'm just trying to pick my selections based on a very short period. So, I wasn't necessarily picking the stocks that I like from a long-term perspective. I would have picked, if you said to me this competition is for the next 2 years, those three miners wouldn't have been in my selection, or maybe not, probably not, looking at what I've got in the portfolio. But I selected miners I felt, based on the Bitcoin price and how that might go after the election, after the inauguration. We might have a bit of a run on the Bitcoin price, and who would benefit from that most? It would be the pure play miners. So I did select three miners that effectively were pure play. It looks like, in its very early days, and believe you me, next month I'll probably be 300th again in the list, because some of the news story will come out. But I don't mind taking the plaudits, one day at a time. I'm now third in the competition overall. Only three competitors have got a positive return on their $300, on the notional $300 invested. So I'm in that group there. I don't mind raising my flag today for that. You're actually doing well as well, Bryce. I mean, we were both, I think, first and second in terms of analysts on the last competition. We're flying the flag again this time around. But actually, I've looked at the analyst board, and there seems to be a lot more. Obviously, we've grown the analyst board. There's a few more entries in there from people who are doing a lot of analysis work, a lot of posting on social media. So we got them to, and Rex Finance and Danny Marks to include those. And there's a few other names on there that weren't in the original competition. So that's great to have more people. And I've noticed that the sort of the a lot of them are very much doing well in that top 100, whereas last time I think me and you finished in the top 50, but there wasn't many finishing the top 100, so it was quite a challenge for the analysts in the first competition. We're seeing a better performance this time, in terms of that they're doing far better than some of the other competitors in terms of percentage-wise. You expect to be at like an average all the way through, but it looks like the analysts are doing a little bit better than certainly they did in the first competition. As I say, what we're on now, we're not even finished the third week, so we've still got another 8 weeks to go of the competition. A lot more things to happen, a lot more bumpy rides. But today, Bryce, me and you are at the top two, so we'll take the plaudits today and live another day. It helps to soften, because as it was for you yesterday. Yesterday was probably my biggest in terms of paper loss since I've been in the space. And again, yeah, it's disappointing, and you think, you're expecting, over the last 3 months, we've had some nice rises, and then all of a sudden that news comes out and it just impacts everything. So 2 trillion across the tech board there, that's, not many people are going to get away from that there. And it happened because it happened over the week. A lot of people were caught out, couldn't get to change any of their positions until the market opened. And by that stage, it's too late. I noticed when I woke up before market open, some of these stocks were down significantly then. So you'd lost the opportunity. I made a couple of purchases yesterday on the grounds that I felt that they've been oversold, and lo and behold, they've dropped a bit further. So, just do your due diligence and think about all the aspects of what's going on. If think it's going to be a bit more longer term, time will tell. But we'll keep you updated on all the changes we go through these podcasts over the next few weeks.
Yeah, we certainly will. I think the big one for me yesterday that made me feel a bit better, Nvidia was down about 17% on the day, which was very close to what my portfolio percentage was down. And if the best performing company in the world can have that big of a loss in a day, I think I can manage one as well. So that gave me a little bit of confidence. But as you say, Anthony, a great opportunity to be averaging down or topping up any positions that you may have some spare cash lying on the sidelines for. So a great episode here today. You guys hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe. Let us know what you think about the Bitfarms HIVE deal. And if you have any questions for either Mike, Alfred, or Ben Gagnon next week. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.